Good afternoon, good morning, and depending on your time zone, welcome to our ATS live webinar. Today's presentation is Patient Privacy and Tranquility, Creating Optimal Healing Environments. My name is Jen Furr, and I'm your moderator today with America Training Solutions. And I am accompanied today by Mr. Octavio Valdivia with Unicel Architectural Corporation. So let's get started. Just to give you an idea of the credits, you'll receive one AIA HSW and one USGBC credit. Those credits are going to be reported directly to those associations on your behalf. So give us about 10 business days. We will also put a certificate in your ATS account, and that's in PDF form, and that's going to be available within about 5 business days, but we'll send you an email and let you know when it's there. Speaking of which, in confirming your attendance, we're going to provide everybody with a session code after the course to confirm your attendance. And that allows us to easily report your credit to those associations and process your certificate. So if you I am so sorry, I'm not sure where that's coming from. Okay, sorry. I think one of our attendees must be off of mute, and their fire alarm went off. Isn't that fun? So if you've never entered a session code, no worries. After today's course, I'm gonna walk you through it. So just stick with me once the course is over. And then the last thing I'm going to mention before I turn it over to Octavio is that it's really important to stay connected to the webinar today so that we know that you're in attendance. The AIA asks us to confirm that you did actually attend. So stay connected for at least 45 minutes. If you are in a conference room with your colleagues, it's really, really important that you log in as you with your assigned GoToWebinar link. That tells us that you are you and you attended. It also allows you to answer the poll questions. It allows you to also ask questions to Octavio. So really important. We look at your login and log off times. So like I said, stay on for at least 45 minutes. You're going to see a survey at the end of the session code, so you don't necessarily have to complete the survey on GoToWebinar. So I mentioned questions. If you have a question for Octavio, please ask it in that question section on the GoToWebinar control panel. If you also have any issue technically, we have a team behind us that is supporting us and helping you make sure that you can hear and make sure you can see the presentation. We also have several handouts that Octavio has shared with us. So if you click that handouts section there, you can see 4 PDFs that he's shared with us there, and you can download them straight from the GoToWebinar platform. So with that said, Octavio, I am going to go ahead and send you a request to share your screen. Let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Perfect. I'm not sure whose fire alarm was that, so I'm glad to know that it wasn't yours.
No, thank God it was not mine.
Oh my gosh, thank goodness.
Can everybody see my screen? Patient privacy and tranquility.
It's perfect, perfect. And we can hear you loud and clear, so I'm going to let you take over.
Great, so thank you, Jen. Thank you to the ATS group for setting this all up for us. We appreciate it. My name is Octavio Valdivia. I am the Northeast Architectural Rep for Unicel Architectural. Unicel Architectural is a manufacturer of highly engineered glass, timber, aluminum, and vision control products in the marketplace. We have architectural representatives such as myself across the US as well as across Canada. My contact information is at the end, and I can certainly help you in my territory or connect you to the proper rep in your territory for any questions you might have at the end. I would like to make this as live as possible, which I know is difficult now that we're all behind the screen. But if you do have questions along the way, please do ask Jen. I have a lot to cover here, so I'm going to have breaking points along the presentation to review. The way the presentation is basically set up is we're going to go through some information as to what we've seen in the market, in the healthcare market. This is specific to that market. We'd like to talk about the current solutions that are in the marketplace, and then talk about how those privacy and daylighting solutions are addressed, and then end up with some case studies along the way. If anybody would have any questions, please let us know. This presentation is focused on healthcare, but as we know, having gone through now almost a year and a half of COVID, the idea of a clean environment and a very private area is very important in just about every market. So our products are also used in not just in healthcare, but also in institutional, educational, correctional, multifamily, and the arts. Again, let's begin. And like I said, if there's any questions, please put them in the chat box along the way, and Jen will be chiming in.
So why don't we find out a little bit about our audience? Are you up for a poll question?
I am, yes.
Oh, okay. So take a look, folks, our first poll question. We do have 4 questions for you today. How much do your healthcare clients value patient privacy and the use of building materials to manage that patient privacy? Very much, somewhat, or not very much? And I usually give everyone about 30 seconds to give us your answer, and it's really important that you participate. That just gives us a signal that you are here and you're listening. So just a few more seconds. All right, let's take a look. Octavio, 69% say very much, and 29% of our audience say somewhat. Only 1% of our audience say not very much.
Great to hear.
Would you like me to launch that second one so we can?
Yes, please.
All right, here we go. So what do you find is your healthcare clients' most important evaluation criteria for privacy management products? Is it cost, durability, or the aesthetic and design appeal? Excellent. All the numbers are going up. I love the participation. A few more seconds. All right, let's take a look. The winner is durability at 46%. Cost is a runner-up at 40% of our audience, and aesthetic design appeal is 15%. All right, I'll turn it back over to you.
Awesome. So that's really great information to hear from the market. I love the fact that durability is very important to your customer. And of course, cost is always an issue. And we'll talk about some of that information as we move forward. Let's begin. These are some of the credits that are being provided. ATS has obviously already gone ahead and given you some of that information. Again, this is a accredited course. And these are some of the informations that ATS will be providing. Well, let's begin with a course description. The idea behind putting together this presentation is to really let architects understand a little bit more about what the healthcare market is looking for as far as controlled daylighting and privacy, to show some of the solutions that are in the market, and then to talk about some of the trends and some of the ideas that we see constantly moving. Healthcare is a very moving market, and I always welcome any feedback that I get from the group to be able to understand more about what we need to do to improve our products. Again, the learning objective is to understand the design requirements, to understand what an insulating glass unit is with integrated core-free louvers, and to put those into application as to what we see currently in the market. As you know, if you're working in healthcare, hospitals have very, very specific design requirements. And the benefit to having a well-designed hospital is going to be that a patient is going to have a faster recovery and that the patient is going to have a positive outcome. As we know, hospitals are in high demand, not just now, but they've been a growing high demand as we look to get the best service, and we actually are looking at hospitals becoming more and more updated to be able to keep up with the trends and the requirements of what the population is looking for. When we looked at some of the issues that hospitals have to deal with, one of the most important issues actually had to do with sound pollution, or the amount of background noise. Now, this was an investigation that was done by the World Health Organization. I know many of us look at the WHO and they think it's a rock group, but it's actually the World Health Organization that makes recommendations based on their evaluation of the space. So what we see here in this chart is that the noise levels at high intense work areas, for example, emergency rooms, areas that there's a lot of patients and a lot of movement in the hospital, can actually be much higher than what is recommended. So the World Health Organization recommends 30 to 35 decibels, and 30 would be so it's lower decibels, lower noise at night, so that it's a more restful night's sleep, and it could be a little bit higher throughout the day. However, what you really see in the real life situations are noise levels that can be up to 75 decibels and even up to 95 decibel at peak areas. The importance of this noise pollution is that the increased noise levels are really not level. They are actually exponential. So every 10 decibel of noise is perceived as twice the amount of noise. And unfortunately, what that means is that it creates a lot of stress. It creates a higher respiratory rate, especially in infant and younger patients. And it also increases the amount of negative benefits by the health providers. So health providers are put under stress. They can have more mistakes made as they're doing their evaluation. Their anxiety brings up their level of anxiety and kind of stress that they deal throughout the day, and that does not help in the way that they look at the work environment. And in fact, that's the reason that there's a 20% turnover rate in nurses in hospitals. So that's what the importance of noise is all about. The next important issue that we found had to do with privacy. Now, privacy, I used to think had a lot to do with the HIPAA laws. It actually has a lot to do with the patient and how the patient feels about their personal information. And most nurses found that a patient is not willing to give a lot of information about themselves or the ailment that is bringing them to the hospital, because they are either in fear or in shame that their information is going to be shared with others. Unfortunately, that means that if the doctor or the nurse does not have the proper information, they may not be treating the patient with the proper medication or the proper treatment. So it is very, very important how the information is shared. The next part that we want to talk about is sunlight and controlled daylight. Now, there's a lot of information on this. In fact, there's lots of research that has been done about the positive effects of daylighting to the recovery process. And that is because natural daylight makes us feel better. It gives us more endorphins, and it just really is a great way to recuperate. In fact, some of the studies actually show that patients in a natural daylight room recover much, much faster than those that are not in a daylit room. Another benefit is that anybody that is dealing with either depression or any kind of loss of memory, and even the recovery process after an operation, has a better sense of where they are if they understand what the daylighting situations are. For a person dealing with Alzheimer's, understanding that there is a day and a night helps them understand why they have a different caretaker coming to them at night. Now, if we look at this beautiful room on the right-hand side, we'll say, well, that's great. It has great daylight. The only downfall to that is that it may have too much daylight. So if you have a patient here trying to recover after a procedure or trying to recover from maybe not getting a good night's sleep throughout the day, they are not able to get the recovery time that they need because they may have too much sunlight, they may have too much heat coming into the room. So it's a two-sided process. You want to make sure you can control the daylight and give the patient a nice restful night's sleep, but you also want to be able to control that throughout the day. Another key factor that needs to be considered is the amount of heat or cold. And when you're designing a hospital, obviously glass or standard piece of plate glass will be a place where the amount of heat loss or heat gain can be quite great. And as you know, working in healthcare, the benefits of having an OR room be at a colder temperature is that the wound that they're cutting open or the process that they're doing does not start the recovery process. So when a patient comes out of the cold OR, they are usually put in a much warmer room, and the warmer temperature actually starts to get the acceleration or starts getting the wound to close up and start recovering. So any area in the hospital, as you can see here from the image, that needs to have a temperature control between one room and the other always has to be aware of the cold and hot environments within the hospitals. A sterile environment, well, we know this today so much better than we did, let's just say 2 or 3 years ago. Hygienic finishes are key. In fact, the market is definitely trending towards less and less soft surfaces and more clean surfaces that can be clean. We know that any kind of area where dust can settle can then create germs, and we have to be aware of how to take care and clean the environment. Unfortunately, a lot of the hospitals are really tasked with not having enough cleaning people to do the work, and therefore anything that keeps the environment cleaner is always preferred. So now we're going to take a look at the market overview, which is basically the current design solutions that are in the market. And I'm going to start with my first slide and then ask Jen to go ahead and run a poll on this. So curtains. How many of you use curtains in your health solution environment?
All right, folks. Do you, like Octavio just said, do you use curtains as a privacy solution in your designs? Yes or no? That's a pretty easy question. So looks like everybody's got that answered very fast. Just give it a few more seconds. All right, let's take a look. So Octavio, 82% say yes, they use curtains as a privacy solution.
And that's usually what I hear. So if I'm doing this live as a lunch and learn, I'll have people put their hands up, and that's pretty much the number that I had seen previous to COVID, probably, or I would say previous to COVID. But it is a very inexpensive solution that many healthcare providers still have to rely on. I like to call them uh, the solution that you have to use when you have no other choice. However, I do see the market changing a whole lot from this. They do offer basic privacy solution. However, they do gather dust. They're not the cleanest product in the room. There are some architects and designers that are looking to use more antimicrobial fabrics, but I do want to warn you that an antimicrobial is basically a carcinogenic that's added to the material, and that carcinogenic can oftentimes off gas into the environment. And I think for that reason, you are seeing less antimicrobial treatments added to healthcare products. Another option that I've heard is that disposable curtains can be used. However, I am also under the understanding, especially from facility managers, that they're trying to limit the number of disposables that they're using because all these disposables are costing the hospital money. So they are a necessary evil, is kind of the word that I use for them oftentimes. They are still in the market, and oftentimes when you have a very crowded situation and you don't have the ability to have the wall, they are still there. What I'm going to show in this part of the presentation now are different current solutions in the market, and I plan to take you from the more basic to the most advanced solutions. So the next one that we see a whole lot is, and I'm not going to ask you the poll question on every one of them, but the other solution that I see for privacy for exterior are roller shades. I do want to point out the roller shades, if you want to have complete darkening, are going to require several layers. So you're going to have a blackout shade and then a filtering shade, unless you just want the blackout shade. When it comes to ADA compliance, they usually are not ADA compliant unless you have them motorized. And what I do see hospitals kind of fading away from are the cords that usually hang on the side of these, because they are considered a risk. So when they do the hospital assessment, they find that they are a risk to the patient, because you don't know if the patient has behavioral issues or if the patient understands how to use them even sometimes. The next part that we see out in the market are blinds. We do know that these have been around for a while. I have not been seeing as many of these in the end user market as I used to. They are still out there. They are not hygienic. Obviously, they have holes, so they do provide some sort of control viewing, but they don't really provide any temperature control or any true daylighting control. So they're better than some of the other products, but they're still not quite there. Blinds between glass or glass infill with mini blinds is still in the market. We see a fair amount of these. These are lesser expensive than some of the more premium products. They do provide a little bit better control because they can actually give you a little bit of acoustics. They can give you a little bit of temperature and heat control moderation. However, as you can see, the blinds are on cords, and you can still get the sunlight coming in through the cord, or you can still view through the cord. They never really seal completely well, so that is another negative. And although the beauty of them is oftentimes that they can go up and down, for example, in a multifamily housing, when it comes to healthcare, because oftentimes they're not treated softly, they do have a tendency to tangle or to become damaged. So oftentimes when I'm working with an architect or a facility manager that has had issues with these, they do have a tendency to not want to use them again. Then there's some newer products in the marketplace. For example, there's frosted glass products that are a series of glass, some frosted and some clear. So when the clear lines align, you get 50% visibility of the area. And when the glass does not align, you basically get a frosted glass look. What I have found again from end user market is that although these do give you privacy when you need it, you only get 50% visibility. And if this is used in an area between a nurse's station and a patient area, the nurse's light will still be visible on the inside of the room. Another reason that some end users are against the product is because I I describe it as a guillotine system. So it's a series of glass, three panels of glass that basically the middle part moves in between. And those are lifted through this larger lever at the bottom. So there's limitations as to the size you can use, and a lot of the uh, practitioners do not like the operating system that it has. It also has, it's plain here that you can read. It doesn't really give you the control viewing, and it doesn't give you a lot of the temperature range that you're looking for. Now, liquid glass, smart glass, there's lots of different names for these products in the marketplace. And they're very popular. They're more popular, I would say, in the corporate market. They have made themselves or broken into the healthcare market. Again, it's a little bit of a fishbowl look. I want to point out that the only way that you keep the glass transparent or more clear is by having an electrical current running through the system. So that is really the only way that you keep the glass more clear. Now, being that it's a hospital setting and that most nurses prefer to keep an eye on the patient, in most hospital settings, the reason that these have failed is because they tend to stay on longer or electrified longer than they're meant to be. And the longer you keep them on, the more the electrodes die, and therefore there will become a time when you don't get the clear view through them. So they are a beautiful, slick approach to the marketplace, but they are sometimes not the best when you want to have constant vision of the patient. Now that brings us to uh, our insulating glass unit with core-free louvers, and I want to describe to you some of the benefits of the product. First of all, it addresses a lot of the design needs in the marketplace, including the fact that you can customize the glass to suit your need. It can be basically prepared for an X-ray room with X-ray leaded glass. It can have fire rated glass. There's lots of different options, and we'll go into that a little bit later. They are completely adjustable. So for example, depending on how the louvers are tilted, you can have a clearer view or you can have less of a view. If you look at the sample of the door or the picture of the door on the right-hand side, the one that's partially cut, you can see that these louvers are turned in more. So although from the outside you can have a clear view of the patient from the inside does not feel as though they're being watched or observed. They also, because they are insulated glass unit, they do have a better STC rating, which can be on par with a block wall or something that's heavier. They are very easy to clean, so therefore they have maximum hygiene. They do allow more light to come in from, example, an exterior room into a corridor area. So therefore they can give you more LEED compliant to daylighting. And they do offer a way to not have the fluctuation of the heat from one side of the room to the other. They also offer many optional manual or mechanically operated units. So now let's talk about some of the benefits or some of the different, I should say, applications that these louvers with core-free louvers can have in the marketplace. Here, for example, this is a NICU unit that they wanted to have as much quieting as possible, and I won't go too much into it because it's actually one of the case studies, but you can see here that these doors are all outfitted with the louvers, and they basically keep a quieter area in this NICU units. So let me show you how these open. So you see here how the product can open and close. And depending on which side of the room you're on, you can have great visibility to the one side or the other, but there is also a sense of privacy. So it can control the light, it can control the view, but it can also give you great, great privacy. The air spaces are varied. Products are available from a 1.25, 2 to 2.5 inch air spaces, depending on the use of the product. The product can be customized, and I hate to use that word, but they can be made basically to suit the needs or the requirements. The products will have a 20-year for interior and a 10-year, oops, sorry, slide went too fast, or a 10-year for exterior, which is really on par with most exterior envelope products. What most architects love about the product is that there is no sagging, there's no tangling, the cleaning is really brought down. It is a maintenance-free product that is completely sealed. The product, I'll show you here. The product is an aluminum extrusion that is basically going to stay firm and aligned. There are different size louvers because they're different size spans for windows. So for example, the 1/4 inch and the 3/16, those are going to be able to span 4 feet before you have a center support. So you could conceivably with those have an 8-foot wide window. With the 3/8, you're going to be able to span 5 feet, so you can now have a 10-foot wide window with a center support. And with the 1/2 inch, you're going to be able to span 6 feet and therefore be able to have a 12-foot wide window. Not to confuse you, and we can take this, on a one-to-one basis, but the product is available on a vertical application, and I will show you some of those in the presentation. And in a vertical application, you don't have to work with the same limitations. So in a vertical application, we could probably go up to, or the product could probably go up to about 7.6 in height. The products do have various operators that are ADA compliant. There's thumb wheel, there's crank handle, and there's even a flat aluminum that's normally used on doors, on sliding glass doors, that can be used again and be ADA compliant. One of the things that the FGI guidelines, that's the facility guidelines, had in their system a while back, and obviously as things have changed, so has the FGI standards. But one of the things that they had in mind at one point was to have product be as manually operated as possible, because they wanted to take away the need for more power. So the idea again is to not have the hospital be drained of power, or not having to have an additional backup unit just for privacy solutions. I will show you how that has changed with the market, because as we will see and we'll talk about, there's more and more hands-free operators being added to the market. But one of the things that you do have to keep in mind, that a manual operator is a very easy operator to use. It will not require power, and it won't strain the hospital for additional power. These are some of the operators that are available on the insulating glass units. So there's a thumb wheel, there's a crank handle, there's flat knob, which I mentioned is usually used for doors. There's lighting, there's a sliding mechanism, and there's even a little bit of a larger knob mechanism as well. Now, as the market has grown and behavioral has grown, and we'll talk a little bit about behavioral, there are also some more specific behavioral options. There's a ligature resistant knob, there's a removable key operator, and there's more and more remote control options that are being added to the units. So with that, we're going to open it up to another question, because motorization has really been, we say, born out of necessity. This is an article here on the right-hand side that was published about 3 years ago, and it talked about how most product is going to a touchless system. You can see here the doctor is using the operator on the right-hand side to open and close the doors. So with that said, I'll let Jen ask the next question.
All right. How would you describe your recent experience with touchless operators? It's a positive experience, needs improvement, or you don't have any experience at this time with touchless operators? I'll give you guys another 15 seconds to get your answer in. Octavia, we do have several questions relative to the louvers and some of the stuff that you've just reviewed.
Okay. Do you want to take those first?
It's up to you. That sounds fine to me. Let's take a look at.
Let's take those first, and people can think a little bit more about the operators. So go ahead.
Okay. Sounds good. So Dio says that curtains will hopefully be a thing of the past, and also added, are the louvers inside the glass that you mentioned, can they be cleaned, and how?
They don't need to be cleaned. They're hermetically sealed. There's drying agents or desiccants that are all around the perimeter of the unit. So we can actually use this picture to take a look at it. So this is the louvers inside a sliding glass door. It's a sealed unit. There are drying agents all around, and no one ever needs to clean these units. For interior, they will have a 20-year warranty.
Great. All right. How is the turn handle ADA compliant?
Great question. I'll go back to are we talking about the flat aluminum knob or the crank handle? Well, let me talk about them both, since we don't have time to go back and ask the question. So the crank handle, it does not need to be pinched. It does not need 2 fingers or 3 fingers to be able to turn, unlike the ligature resistant. You can turn it with 1 finger. I have had customers do this with their elbow, and I've had them do it, believe it or not, with a Captain Hook apparatus to make sure that it is ADA compliant. The flat knob, again, you could use any kind of body part to put on it and be able to really rotate that wheel. And what makes that work is really the fact that it's a larger flat piece, so it allows you to move it. And anything that does not require pinching in order to operate can work as an ADA compliant product.
Oh, that's great information. Can you install cord-free louvers in existing patient room doors or window frames?
Yes, you can. It depends on the kind of frames that currently exist. They can be installed over existing hollow metal frames. You remove the glass and the units go on the inside with larger trims on the outside. And yes, you can. There's lots of different ways of doing it. So if anybody has one particular question about a project, they can always send us the information. We have hundreds and thousands of different details that have been done along the way.
Awesome. Okay, does the aluminum, can the aluminum be powdered coated in different colors?
Yes, there are custom color capabilities. It does bring up the price of the product, but it is quite feasible and quite possible to do.
All right, Gabriel asks, what is the rating?
So the STC rating on the product is really going to depend on the airspace that you're using. we have seen some STC ratings go up in the 30s and even in the 40s. If they have a specific rating that they're looking for, what we usually do is we ask the architect to provide us with what they're looking to meet, and we will come back to them and give them different options that they can use. For example, I've had customers that want to be up in the 50s, and the solution that was presented was a larger airspace with two different types of laminated glass, because laminated glass in itself has a great STC rating. And if you use two different types of laminated glass, it actually improves the STC rating. So lots of different ways of doing it, but they can be quite high.
Okay, we'll do one more question because we've just got 20 minutes left in the webinar.
Okay.
And this is about glass thicknesses and how they vary, and what are the thicknesses, and can the glass be tinted? That's a lot of questions, sorry, but that's one
Well,
group.
and those are all great questions. And yes, the system can accommodate different thicknesses in glass. It can accommodate custom colored glass, tinted glass, two-way mirror glass. So all of those are definitely options. The fact that the framing has a lot of adjustability really accommodates just about any kind of, and again, I hate to call it custom, but it adapts to solve just about every need that's in the marketplace.
Okay,
And
great.
you'll see a little bit of the, for example, fire rated glass is thicker, so they'll see a little bit of that solution in the next part.
That's great, because one of the questions was about fire rating, so excellent.
Yep. So we'll see
All
that
right.
too.
Let's look at these results. So
Okay.
29% of our audience say they have a positive experience with touchless operators. 26% say that it needs improvement, and 45% of our audience doesn't have any experience. So folks that have had experiences, positive or negative, if you have an example to share with Octavio, type it in the question section, and I'll take a couple of those and share with Octavio in just a moment.
Jen, since we're limited in time, how about if I keep going, and then at the end of this, before I go into more product, we review
Absolutely,
that.
go for it. That's a
Okay,
great idea.
so again, behavior is everything, and although this project was not a behavioral project, it really talks about how the system is changing or evolving. So if we go back to curtains, we can talk about the evolution of where curtains have gone. We've seen where they've tried to add antimicrobials to it. As I said, those are oftentimes airborne, so the market has switched away from that, and they're going to a cleaner solution. In the same way, most hospitals are looking for more hands-free. I would say for that 40-something% that hasn't seen this yet, they're definitely going to see more of it in the market and in the industry, because the idea is to have less and less touch. So the project that we saw the picture of, the way that those projects can be conceived is that these louver window products, as you can see in here, basically have a very, very small motor attached to them. And that motor can be basically, connected to a Wi-Fi system that can be operated on somebody's cell phone. It can be operated by a switch on the wall. It can be operated in lots of different fashions. In fact, I believe that some of the newer systems that we're seeing actually work with Alexa and some of these, talking devices that are out there in the marketplace now. So Jen, any feedback on?
Yeah, this is a great
question?
one. Charles says a remote uses infrared, so need to aim accurately. Also, the motor mechanism's battery was difficult to replace.
So what I will say to that is we haven't had any of those issues. However, I do know that the systems do keep evolving and they do keep getting better. Our products don't have to worry about the infrared part of it. They are actually a very interesting technology. And again, because this is AIA, I didn't want to share some of that information. But I believe the name was Charles that asked that
Mm-hmm.
question. But if
Mm-hmm.
Charles wants to reach out to us, we'll get the regional person in his area to give him more information about the products.
Great. And then Paul says that the less the touch on the operator seems to contradict the desire to avoid power requirements.
Oh, what a great point. What an amazing point. And as I said when I was going over the FGI standards and how the FGI standards were looking for less power, um, it is a contradiction. I do have to agree with that, but hospitals are realizing that less touch means less germs, less contact. And I don't have to say this enough, but COVID has really changed the way that the healthcare organizations are looking at product and how they're looking to stay clean. So yes, it is a contradiction. What I think is important to note is that a power a product that needs power only to open and close is also different than a product, for example, like privacy glass, which has to be motorized all the time in order to stay clear. So limiting the amount of power by FGA standards is often evaluated by the need or the situation. But yes, to his point, it is a contradiction, but it's a contradiction that is constantly evaluated by hospital. And the way that a hospital evaluates this is that they look at their risk assessment, or they evaluate what is most important to them to solve the problem or to get into a better state of being. So I know that's a long question, but like I said, it's a great question, but it is the evolution of the market.
Excellent. Thank you for your contributions, Paul and Charles. So in the interest of time, I'm going to pass everything else on to you later,
Sounds
Octavio, and then I'll
great.
let you
Sounds
keep
great.
going. Yes,
So
thank you.
we're gonna go over some of the benefits or some of the special interest areas that the product has been able to meet. Behavioral health. I don't know how many of you are doing behavioral health currently, but I do know that it is a growing market. At least I've seen in the north part of the U.S. I think it's going to be growing everywhere. I see projects that are growing out our um, on our on our system, and they're just a growing market. The ability for a product to pass impact testing is very important. Fire testing is also very important, as is laser shielding is also very important. And I didn't put it on here because pressed for time, but also X-ray is also very important. Having a product that can be made to have X-ray glass and meet the requirements is very important, as well as MRI. The fact that the product does not have um, any metal in it that is attracting MRIs is also a good thing. Now let's start with behavioral health, and I'm going to speed it up a little bit because I know we're a little pressed for time here. So impact resistance, very important. I want to share with you this video. So this is a test of a product being tested for exterior behavioral health, or AAMA 501.8, for 2,000 foot-pounds. I want to stress to you that this sandbag is hit in the center, at the side, and at the corner. And a product will not meet the criteria unless it has passed all three of these hits to the curtain wall. Now, these are some of the details that are being shown for curtain walls. So here you can see that the sealed system. And again, because I didn't make myself very clear, it's a sealed unit. There are desiccants or drying agents around it. This product does not have to be opened or closed. The difference between a product like this, that is a sealed cord-free unit, versus some of the other products that are available for behavioral, is the fact that you don't have to open the system to be able to clean the louvers or anything of that nature. Now, what we are seeing a whole lot are projects where there is already an existing curtain wall and the customer needs to make this a behavioral unit. So we are seeing where a hospital is getting refurbished and now they're getting money, funds by the government to make 10, 20, 30% of the units to meet behavioral impact. That means that these rooms now have to be shielded. So a regular curtain wall or a regular window will need to have a product installed to be able to meet the criteria. Having a louver system on the inside allows them to meet that impact resistance. So basically two different options. There's one that is used for an exterior application, a punch window application or ribbon window application. And then there's another one that is used on the inside of an existing exterior window or existing wall. Now, similarly, you could use some of these units to have impact resistance when you have windows on interior walls and the patient is only on one side because it has been tested from one side. Another point that the product is able to meet, and now this one we'll talk about the fire rating. So this is a fire rating application for a door. In this situation, the product uses a different manufacturer 60-minute fire rating, which you can see is much thicker than standard glass, and it will provide you a 45-minute rating. There is a standard 20-minute trim available as well, which is standard. And these are all obviously tested on somebody else's base fire rated doors. Laser shielding is another important topic that I did want to bring up because a lot of the other products in the marketplace, as we talked about different products, are not able to offer this or not offer the same amount of blocking. The reason that the aluminum louvers are able to do that is because their interlocking profile does not allow the light to penetrate. And then a simple add-on of a trim around the unit basically prevents the lasers from coming through. Now, previous to doing this system, we actually used to provide different kinds of kind of peel and stick solutions. The only other products that are available in the marketplace will be a roll down shade for laser. And again, it's another obstacle or something else that can gather dust. So this is the solution, is basically adding a piece of aluminum to the outside of the unit, and that will prevent, this is really the only area that the light might go through because, as I mentioned, the louvers interlock to one another. So we're going to go now into project highlights or case studies. Maybe let's just run through these, Jen, and then if there's any questions, I can take them all at the end, and I'll run through this because I know we're kind of tight on time here. Let's begin with Nationwide Children's Hospital. This is a behavioral health project. Please notice here that the louvers are in vertical situation. This actually was a benefit for the architect because he was able to go higher. And also the shell of this building or the outside of this building uses a striated glass. So the striations on the outside basically are mimicked on the inside. The architect also felt, because it was a behavioral unit, that the vertical louvers gave the patients a better sense of ground and sky, so they were able to have a better sense of where they were in the room, or a better sense of well-being. So it improved their sense of well-being. Mount Sinai Medical Center. This is actually one of the first projects that I worked on when I began at Unicel, and what the architect needed to do was to remove the curtains. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the curtains in this room basically ran around the side of the room and towards the front of the room. Because of their size and the fact that they were one complete piece of curtain, the cleaning facility did not allow them to clean as often as they were needing to be cleaned. The architect's solution here was to use the insulating glass units in the slimmer profile for the doors, and in order to maintain the look, they used the same profile for the inside spaces in between. This is a decentralized nurses station, so the nurse sitting out here is able to take care of 2 rooms, and the louvers in between still allow him or her to have visibility from one room to the other. This is a special cardiac intensive care unit. Boston Children's Hospital, one of our actually oldest, I guess, national accounts up in Boston. The smaller profile product that I just showed you here, the product that is used on the doors, is actually a product that was created at the request of Boston Children. Sorry, went too fast there, because they used the product throughout of their windows, but wanted a solution for the doors. Older projects like this, you will notice, not just in the fact that they're mixing laminate and 2 different woods and paint, but notice that they're also using hollow metal frames. So for whomever asks, can the existing windows be retrofitted? Yes, they can. We can, basically retrofit an existing hollow metal frame or replace it depending on the cost that's allowed by the hospital. Again, NICU unit, like I had shown you in a previous picture, where they're looking to have as much quiet space for the infants as possible. And the idea, again, is you have a very unique client here. You have babies that are prenatal, or neonatal, and they really have to be taken care of. So anything you can do to control the noise, the sound, and have a clean space is always very, very good. Another neonatal intensive unit. This is a NICU. This is MidStar Franklin, another hospital that we've done a great deal of work with. And I haven't gone into all the details of the number of units because I feel like a rush, and I'd rather honestly get more questions out of it. So let me open it up to you guys. Questions?
All right, we have one right now. Are Holt open devices capable of being integrated into touchless hardware?
Read it one more time, Jen.
So are the open Holt devices capable of being integrated? So if you reverse it, can the touchless hardware allow you to have an open hold on I guess wherever it stands?
Yes, they can. The newer motors actually have a lot of flexibility. I didn't get a chance to mention because it's just so much to cover, but the newer motors can actually integrate with a smart building solution. So you are able to actually program the amount of daylighting or the times that the window units are being opened or closed. And we have seen a lot of requests in the market. For example, a nurses station that would like to have the rooms all closed down at a certain time so that the patients have a private or quiet time or restful night's sleep. So yes, they can. Motors are very, very creative nowadays.
That is very cool. Everything is smart these days,
Yes, yes.
Well, I think we covered a lot of these questions as we went along, so this is excellent. We are right at the 1 o'clock hour, Eastern time, that is. And we don't have any other questions, so it's perfect. Hey, I want to
Great.
point out to our audience, above the presentation, you can see the word screenshot with a camera. And because Octavio has his information there, you can click that and it will grab an image of that slide and put it onto your computer so you can refer to it later. So just that's a little handy dandy trick in our webcast. So anything else you'd like to say before we close this out?
No, I'd like to thank everybody for making the time. I see that we had, wow, we had 233 attendees. That's great. Thank you all for making the time. I know that it's, it's difficult to make the time throughout the day. ATS is a provider that we've worked with for many years. I believe we have an older one of these. I think it's Daylighting and Energy in their system. Please reach out to us because we do have additional AIA programs that we can offer to you. And like I said, if your market is in the educational, not the healthcare, we have programs for that. And we do have a general daylighting and energy that applies to every building type out there. So again, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Well, we appreciate you. We've already gotten some excellent feedback, and lots of folks love this course, so well done. All right, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my screen and share the session code for everyone. And there it is. That session code is 67416. And if you're sitting here thinking, what the heck is a session code? I'm going to review I'm going to review it with everyone in the process on adding it to your ATS account. If you know the drill, go ahead and write that down or enter it into your ATS account. I'm going to run through a couple of quick slides, and then I will end with the instructions on entering the session code. So just bear with me. So if you, like Octavia mentioned, that we do have courses online. I believe this is where you would find that one. This is an online course section. We have lots of new courses available at your own pace, and most of them are valid for one AIA HSW on one USDBC credit. So take a look at that. If you are a Twitter person and you'd like to get updates from us on more opportunities like this course and our full day webcasts, just follow us. If you search Architect Education, you should be able to find ATS. And the most important slide I always say is a thank you for joining us. You guys were an excellent audience, and love all of your participation in the polls and on the questions there. So if you do have any questions going forward, please ask them in the questions section. And now I will move on to how to enter your session code. So Octavio, you're good to go unless you have anything else you'd like to say.
No, just thank you again to everybody for making the time. We really appreciate it.
All right, thank you. And we'll see you again.
Sure.
All right,
Thank you.
so there is the 3 steps to enter your session code. Easy. First is you're going to log into your account. The second is you're going to enter that session code that I just gave you, and I will bring it back up, so no worries if you didn't jot it down. And third is it's going to trigger you to complete an evaluation form. So let's talk about those 3 steps in more detail. You're going to go to the ATS website, which is atsseminar.com. Please note you are seeing this webinar on the GoToWebinar website, not the ATS website. So you're gonna have to open another web window, another browser window, and go to atsseminar.com. When you get there, you're gonna see that red button there on the top right to log in. This is the same login that you use to register for today's course. That would be your email address and your password. Sometimes when you go into the ATS website, you're going to see My Account. That means you're already logged in and you don't have to enter your credentials. You just click My Account. It's going to take you to your event schedule. Today's event was just one course. So next to the course, next to Octavio's course is an Enter Session Code button. And that is where you're going to go. You're going to click that button and it's going to take you to a screen that looks like this. That is the number that you're going to type in, 67416. You'll click the blue button to submit that, and that's going to take you to your course survey. That would be 6 quick multiple choice questions about the course, the content, Octavio, and his excellent presentation skills. And then the seventh question is open-ended. And we would love to have your feedback there. You must type in something there relative to the course, your experience with the course, in order for your session code to process. The last thing you got to do is click confirm my presence, and you're done. And that's going to take you right back to that event schedule and show you that your presence is confirmed. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. Like I said, your certificate is going to be into your ATS account. Someone did ask on the webinar, how will you know my AIA number? Your credentials are attached to your account in ATS, and when you submit your session code, it's identified you as attending, and we know your AIA number because it's part of your account, and we submit it to AIA that way. For your other associations and state licenses, that PDF is going to go in this your account, and you're going to find it under certificates. Give us about 5 business days for those certificates, and we will send you an email once that PDF is in your account. Let me go back to that session code so you have it in case you did not grab it before. And if you have any questions about the process or you're having any trouble whatsoever, type that question into the question section on the GoToWebinar control panel, and we will be here to help you. So I'm going to hang out here for a bit. I'll leave the session code up on the screen. And I just want to thank you again, and we hope you will attend again. We have full-day seminars and would love to see you there as well. So thanks, everybody.